If I were to ask you the most important vehicle in maintaining the stability of the world order, what vehicle would you guess? An F-16, maybe a Humvee? Well, the real answer is this guy, a submarine. But the reason why is unexpected and incredibly fascinating, and it gets even more interesting when you discuss the most recent advancements in submarine technology, because believe me when I say these big names like General Dynamics, they're always doing something to their submarines, always making some sort of new feature. And for that reason, they're loaded with cutting-edge war technology. They're really cool, but also terrifying at the same time. So let's talk about that. Take the newest submarine, the Columbia class. Now this is the submarine that will soon rule the world. It's so terrifying that people are literally calling it the country killer. And there's some stats about it that are pretty insane, like the fact that it'll be 560 feet long, almost the size of the Washington Monument. It will displace 20,810 tons once submerged, making it the largest submarine ever built. But the other metrics of this ship are where it gets even more intriguing, because the dive capacity of the ship is 200 meters and the speed is 20 knots, around 23 miles per hour. But what's funny is that these stats are completely wrong. The US government does this funny thing where they list 200 meters and 20 knots for all of their submarines, and in reality, a cutting-edge submarine like this can probably reach upwards of 1,500 meters deep and travel at around speeds of 30 to 35 knots. No one really knows because this is all classified, of course. But all these stats you find online, whether they're fact or not, is somewhat unimportant in the grand scheme of things. Like, is it cool that this is the size of World War II submarines and this is the size of the Columbia? Yeah, that is pretty cool, yeah. But that's not what's key to making a good submarine. What's key is sneakiness. This is what submarines used to have to do. Dive down for a few days, lurking around in the darkness, only to have to rush to the surface and recharge their batteries, probably giving away their location. Now, if you were trying to spy on some enemies only to surface and give away your location every couple of days, you wouldn't make for a very good spy. But that was just the reality of operating a submarine. That is, until this guy comes along. Rear Admiral Heyman Rickover. They call this guy the father of the nuclear navy. He's a big deal in the submarine space, and for good reason. He's the driving force behind one of the most important moments in history. Picture this, it's shortly after World War II. The Cold War is soon approaching, meaning espionage is becoming increasingly important, and the US is left with an aging diesel submarine fleet that has to resurface every couple of days. It's gotta change. The US knows that the Soviet Union is working over there day and night to improve their submarine technology. So what is the US government gonna do? They gotta do something. They can't let the Soviets get ahead of them. After the war, all this crazy technology that the Germans were developing was of course handed over to the Allies. And this particular paper is a blueprint for a submarine that could stay submerged for longer periods of time than the standard at the time of World War II. Of course, the Germans knew the importance of staying underwater for a long time and not revealing their location. So this blueprint makes its way to Philip Abelson, a physicist that worked on the Manhattan Project. And he believes that he can make it better. He asked himself, what if we added a nuclear power plant to this submarine? So, he irons out the details and publishes his own paper on the idea. Well, any paper in the submarine space isn't going to go unnoticed by the father of submarines, our Admiral Rickover. He hears about this idea and he makes it his personal mission to turn it into reality. He loves this idea. This guy's not gonna sleep until he gets a nuclear power plant inside of a submarine. And Admiral Rickover actually has a decent amount of authority. So eventually he gets the sign-off. By 1951, the Navy announces that it is on board to make a nuclear-powered sub. And by 1954, the USS Nautilus is officially commissioned. Now the Nautilus changed literally everything. Submarines went from needing to come up to the surface every 2 days, like we talked about, to never needing to go to the surface ever. The only reason that they have to is because we humans can't remain underwater forever. We, of course, need to get new food and supplies and stuff. Not only that, but these new nuclear submarines are quieter. All the mechanical parts from a diesel engine no longer needed. Fast forward to modern times and Look at this thing. Like that Columbia-class submarine not only has upgraded its mechanical drive to an electric drive, but has also upgraded its nuclear reactor, which will be so quiet that it will produce less acoustic noise than a 20-watt light bulb.
Because remember, they're trying to navigate the deep ocean quietly and undetected.
They'll do literally anything to make these vessels as quiet as possible. Like even the crew themselves can't make too much noise. Apparently they do things like wear tennis shoes instead of boots so that their footsteps don't make too much noise, which is wild. But yeah, I think we've about covered it, right? We've got the electric drive, the whale over here. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else we should cover. Oh, right. I almost forgot. This new submarine could literally wipe a country off the face of the earth if it wanted to. Maybe a small country, but still. See that little text right there? You read that right. One missile is 44 feet, and this thing has 16 of them. So now we're really getting into the reason why this submarine will soon rule the world. See, once we threw nuclear reactors into submarines, we realized the potential for submarine warfare. It's one thing to have a sneaky sub lurking around enemy waters. You know, they're keeping check on them, listening in on conversations, but it's a whole nother thing to arm these things so that any moment, anywhere in the world, you are ready for an attack on basically whoever, and they don't even know where it's coming from. So as you can imagine, the US has developed quite the technology for these missiles as well. Right here in the middle of the submarine are 16 launch tubes, and within each tube, you have an absolute marvel of warfare technology. Because each missile holds up to 12 warheads, and each warhead is 6 times as powerful as the bomb dropped on Nagasaki, which, as you can imagine, is and was a huge deal for global warfare. Because imagine how terrifying this was for other countries when the US was the only country to have nukes on their perpetually running nuclear subs that could stay under the water for 4 months. Sure, you can drop a nuke out of a plane or shoot it from the ground, but militaries have lots of technology to spot these things and warn of danger. To have a vehicle that could be hanging out in your backyard armed with nukes, and there's no way for you to tell? Absolute game changer. We're not done just yet though. We've massively overlooked this missile sector of technology. Just picture it. The USS Columbia is navigating the waters here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And you're telling me that it can launch a missile to retaliate against any target within this range? Well, that's right. The technology on these missiles is insane. It's the biggest reason that the USS Columbia will soon rule the world. Because this is how the missile works. The missile first gets shot up by a steam cannon. An explosive charge vaporizes a tank of water into steam, and that steam then pushes on the bottom of the missile and forces it out of the tube. So this initial boost should be enough to push it out of the water and into the air. Once sensors inside the missile detect gravity forcing the missile back down towards the surface of the water, the first of 3 rocket stages ignites. This first one powers the rocket all the way up to the edge of space, where it will actually assess the stars in the sky to make sure that it is on the right track to its target. So once it does some Galileo stargazing, it hangs momentarily to prepare for some destruction. So soon after that, the warheads are released so that they can each head to their pre-programmed targets. Oh yeah, did I mention that you can wipe out multiple cities at once? It doesn't have to just go to one area. Each warhead is hurtled towards its target, and if all goes as planned, well, I think you know what ensues. And remember, this happens 12 times just from this one missile. So this sounds terrifying, but at least so far, this has been a way to maintain the stability of the world and actually not destroy it. The USS Columbia is, at the end of the day, a way to maintain that peace, which is why it has to rule the world, or at least the ocean world. It has to lurk in the depths of the ocean, housing more and more technology to make it quieter,
stockpiling more and more missiles capable of so much destruction. All of this so that we never have to actually send one of these missiles into the air.
As long as we continue to sneakily glide across the oceans, silently keeping opposing superpowers at bay, hopefully no major conflicts will arise. As we develop our submarine technology, they develop their submarine technology, we match the nuclear warhead count, yada yada. That's the idea, at least. Anyway, thanks for watching.